Guys, let's talk about the scale model of the solar system lab activity together. Getting my highlighter ready to go so I can highlight important key terms in the reading for the background paragraph. We have been working on astronomical units, which are a convenient way to measure distances in the solar system. So remember, those are units that are used to measure the solar system. And they are such a large unit that it keeps the numbers so they're easier to write and comprehend. They're not as big as light years, though. Remember, light years are used by astronomers when they need a large unit to measure distances in the universe between galaxies. So the reason we use these huge terms is because it's easier to say the nearest galaxy, perhaps the Andromeda galaxy, is 2.3 million light years away than to say it is 23 quintillion, look at all those zeros, kilometers away. So the numbers get to be so big that it becomes difficult to write and hard to comprehend. So in this activity, you guys built a model, or at least you looked at a model, and of the solar system. And so then I asked you to look at some data. So let's look at the data on the bottom page of your page here. So this is the name of the body. So we have the name of the planets, the sun, Mercury, and the sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, which, reminder, is a dwarf planet. So this is the scaled diameter. So like in comparison, like how big are these to one another if you were going to put it on a scale? This is the average distance from the sun. So this is actually what you're going to build your graph for. Remember, AU is the abbreviation for astronomical units. So Mercury's distance from the sun is 0.4 astronomical units. That's just a little bit less than half of an astronomical unit, right? Because half would be 0.5. And then Venus is 0.7, was just a little bit more than half of an astronomical unit. And then we have 1 astronomical unit. Remember, that is 93 million miles from the sun. I'm going to turn my paper over and help you with your graph. The directions for your graph say to create a bar graph that shows average distance of each planet from the sun. So actually, this is your title. So if you're writing the title, remember you need to capitalize. So average distance of each planet from the sun. It is a really long title and it's totally okay. The next thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you underline your title. If you don't underline your title, then you haven't given it, its importance right there. So you got to give it credit for being super important, because the title of a graph is super important. And even if I wrote it right on that exact top line, I still would need to underline it, make it a little bit bold, because the title of a graph is really important. It shows you what you're graphing. Next, we have to figure out what we're going to put on our X and Y axis. Remember, the X axis is on this side and the Y axis is the line that goes across. I am going to use the line that goes across the X axis, and I'm going to label each planet. Now, you can do it in 2 ways. So I'm going to start with Mercury because that's the order of the planets, right? Mercury, and then I'm going to go Venus, Earth, Mars, Neptune. Wait, sorry. My very energetic mother that's a J. That's a J, Mrs. Tomlinson. Just sent us 9 pizzas. So I'm going to turn my paper so that I can write, so I can actually read it. It is always okay to just turn your paper if you need to, so that you can read it. So I'm going to do these all at an angle, okay, because that's how I wrote it. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, which is a dwarf planet, but we're including it because it's fun. Okay, I should have turned the J, but already too late. I already messed that one up really bad. Or you could literally have turned your paper completely sideways, and you could have written them like this, like Mercury, Venus, right? So that you didn't have to tilt your terms like me, okay? You totally did not have to do that. So what are these things at the bottom of our graph? These things are planets, right? So now I've labeled my x-axis and I have all of my planets listed. The scale for average distance of each planet for the sun, the first thing we need to do is look at the data. So remember, we're using this data here. Our biggest number is 40 AU, 40 astronomical units, and our smallest is 0.4. Looks like they get pretty big after the 0.4. So I'm going to turn over and make sure that I have 40 actual lines going from the bottom to the top, and I don't, but I do have enough so that I can count by twos. So always remember that you're writing starting at 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, equal increments, and then just go all the way to the top of your graph, okay? So Mercury's was 0.4. Well, 0.4 is a little bit less than half of 1. So here's going to be 1, right, in between 0 and 2. So here's going to be 1. I'm going to do a little bit less than half of that for Mercury. And Venus was 0.7, which is just a little, wait, it was, I'm going to double check my data. 0.7, yep. 0.7, which is a little bit less than 1 again. And then Earth is actually 1, so we'll make that just a little bit higher. Now remember, when you fill in your bars, you want to make sure that you fill them in solidly, and you, if you don't actually end up on a line for a bar, which we did not, you want to actually put the number right above it so that we can see it, right? So that one was 0.4. When I color this in, you'll color it much more carefully than me. I'm just using a pen and try not to waste much of your time. This one is 0.7, and this one is 1, right? So, and I'll color in this bar, right? So you'll need to do the rest, but you'll see there's definitely an upward trend. What that means is that the bars get bigger and bigger, okay? All right, I know you can do this. Come see me if you have questions. I'm sure it will be just fine. You're a champ, so you can do this. Oh, you know what? Sorry. Turn your paper. What are these numbers on the y-axis? They are astronomical units. Capital letter here, capital letter there. All right, now you got it. Do it.